What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we did get more information around this day one patch for Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and I'll admit it's more content being added through an update than I was expecting. We'll go over that one here today. Also, we are going to be talking about EA reportedly reviving an older fan favorite franchise, and we're also going to be talking about Valve having to delay their Steam Deck, which, well, holiday 2022, here I come. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Forza Horizon 5. We had talked previously how it went into early access last week, seeing over 1 million players jump in then, but it has now released, of course, and people have had a couple of days to check it out, and it looks like this is the biggest launch that Microsoft has seen for Xbox Game Studios. And check this out. This was tweeted out by Phil Spencer, saying, "We've invested for years in Xbox so more people can play. With 4.5 plus million players so far across PC, cloud, and console, Forza Horizon 5 shows that promise coming to life. Largest launch day for Xbox Game Studios game, peak concurrent 3 times Forza Horizon 4's high. Thank you, players, and congrats to We Are Playground." So first of all, I've been playing Forza Horizon 5 for the last couple of days since it dropped on Game Pass, and it is phenomenal. It probably is the best racing game I've ever played. I mean, really, if you jump into it, you're going to expect a traditional racing game, even though it is an open world style game like we've seen with Forza Horizon 4, but it takes that concept to the next level. This essentially is a racing action adventure RPG. It's hard to describe necessarily, but when you get into it and start playing, it is very addictive. There is a lot of stuff to unlock, experience flying in from all over the place, accolades, and the world itself is a lot of fun, and it's very interesting to explore and find new things. So I recommend checking it out either way if you have Game Pass. And yeah, it's probably the best looking game I've ever seen. So if you have maybe a nice new TV or an OLED or something you want to put through its paces, certainly fire up Forza Horizon 5. But now I'm thinking of Halo Infinite. If Forza Horizon 5 was able to top over 4.5 million players, in fact, some people have seen over 5 million players based on like the leaderboards and in-game count for players, what is Halo Infinite going to do when it releases in the beginning of December? We'll have to keep an eye on that. Also, we've seen Fortnite do some very random crossovers for a bit now, but take a look at this because this certainly made an impact online when it was announced. This from the Fortnite Twitter account saying, "Coming soon." That's right. It says, believe it, Fortnite cross Naruto. This is happening apparently November 16th, and everyone was absolutely floored by this announcement. I mean, it's kind of cool to see this, but typically, like, companies behind properties like Naruto are pretty protective of the intellectual property, so to see the Naruto itself, the characters going into Fortnite, we don't really know all the details around it, but you assume they're going to be running around with guns. It does make me think that Fortnite just is that big to where, yes, we want any and all properties possible getting into this game for the maximum exposure that these companies can get from it. And it does make me wonder if we could get to a point where Dragon Ball Z has a crossover. I'm not the biggest Naruto fan, but I'll admit, if we had Dragon Ball Z crossover with Fortnite, I might have to go back to it. Oh, and while we're on the topic of Naruto, we can see that Jump Force is actually being delisted. That's right. Fighting Game of the Year nominee Jump Force is unfortunately being removed from different stores. We can see this tweeted out. This from Bandai. "Our sincere thanks goes out to all Jump Force players and fans for their support, but with all good things, they must come to an end. Jump Force's availability through digital purchase in the Americas will end on February 7th, 2022, 5 p.m. Pacific time." And then they go on to say that the online servers will go down August 24th, 2022, but all single player functions will be playable locally. And the obvious thing here is just licensing. There's a lot going on there with all of the characters, licenses, everything with that. So eventually, yeah, it was going to be pulled down. I don't know if it's worth telling you, hey, you should go out and get it physically, because the game itself isn't very good, although it was nominated Fighting Game of the Year. But anyway, it's maybe something to have for the collection just in case it becomes rare, but this is another look at the all-digital future. It's something we would have to get used to. Games being around for a little while and then just being delisted due to likenesses, trademarks, all these different things. So, I mean, like I said, if you really want to Jump Force, might be worth picking it up. That way you can re-download it or just grab it physically for collector's sake. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. It's out next week, and I'm looking forward to it mostly for nostalgia's sake. Back in the day, I think I played through Diamond like once, so obviously, like what are we, 14, 15 years later? I'm looking forward to checking it out once again, just to see what my take is on it now. But it does appear that day one patch has been detailed, coming in at about 3 gigabytes, and in fact, it's already live as of this recording now. But we won't have the game until next week. However, looking through everything that's being patched in, it's more than I was expecting. We do have the cutscenes for the opening and even ending being added in, which is very strange to read that, but there was a full trailer that was released showing off some interesting new additions here, one of which sounded cool, where you find these slates around the world, you bring them to a certain spot, and you'll have legendary Pokemon to run into. Pretty cool there, but we can see the patch notes starting at the top. Edition of Grand Underground, Super Contest Show, Union Room, and Mystery Gift communication features. You will be able to enjoy local and online communication features of the Grand Underground, Super Contest Show, and Union Room. Additionally, you will also become able to receive gifts using Mystery Gift feature. The thing I see with this is any of the online stuff that's being added in through a patch that you need to connect to the internet to get probably isn't a big deal, because if you're connecting to the internet to do online stuff, you've already crossed the first barrier. You have an internet connection to download stuff with. But then it starts getting a bit odd, because it does appear that there are quite a few pieces of end-game content that you would need this patch in order to experience. Some content that becomes playable after entering the Hall of Fame, including Ramanas Park, will be added in the update. They even say even if you've already entered the Hall of Fame before downloading the update, downloading it will allow you to play the additional content. They go on to mention some in-game cutscenes and even animations will be added in the update, which, again, very strange to see that situation there. And then other adjustments and corrections were made to improve the gameplay experience. So the obvious situation here is they were just running out of time with development, and they had to have the game at least go gold to where they could put it on cartridges and get them out to stores in time. And it is a situation of, we'll kind of patch it later. Now, the good news is at least the patch is ready for release day, and you would hope so. In fact, it's ready before release day. But I guess they had to pick out what can we work on now and then what can we patch in later. The thing that's strange to me is the opening cutscene is something that they deemed as we'll patch it in later, considering that's like the first impression that you'll have of the game is the opening cutscene. And at times it becomes iconic in these different Pokemon games. So that was an odd one. The end game content that would be offline is strange as well. The slates, cool idea there, but the fact that part of that end game content is part of this update is a shame, because then the physical copy itself is missing quite a bit, right? So that might be a game you'd look towards as just a digital copy, although I know a lot of people like to collect the physical Pokemon games. Who knows, maybe as we go along, they'll have a second run of the game and it'll just have that patch included because of that end game content. But I think this is just another case of remote work, pandemic, and things just being thrown into flux, along with ILCA trying to work alongside of the Pokemon Company to get this game done with, I'm sure, some pretty serious deadlines, considering these games coming out next week don't want to run into or even come up close to Pokemon Arceus, which is something they're really trying to push starting next year. So if you pick up these games physically, just make sure you get that update downloaded. Next up, let's talk about the Steam Deck, as Valve did announce yesterday that it has been delayed, but only by 2 months, which again means I'll probably get mine holiday next year. Let's take a look over on their website. This store.steampower.com news saying the launch of Steam Deck will be delayed by 2 months. We're sorry about this. We did our best to work around the global supply chain issues, but due to material shortages, components aren't reaching our manufacturing facilities in time for us to meet our initial launch dates. Based on our updated build estimates, Steam Deck will start shipping to customers February 2022. This will be the new start date of the reservation queue. All reservation holders keep their place in line, but dates will shift back accordingly. Reservation date estimates will be updated shortly after this announcement. And that does mean that I'm sure there are plenty of people who have also been pushed into 2023 for the Steam Deck, which tells me we'll probably not see it on store shelves, if ever. I mean, this could be something where if this works out for Valve, maybe they pursue a successor to this and that ends up on store shelves. But we know there are a lot of issues right now around not only the chip shortage, but just logistics, getting these things to stores. They say the supply chain itself. People don't think necessarily about the smaller chips when it comes to power delivery, for example, in something like this. That is also affected. You might have a chip that costs like 50 cents and you're just unable to get it, but it is something required for just charging the device. These are all things that have been covered at length by several publications. So we think of that chip from AMD in there, but that might even not be what's holding it up. It could be all these other things that are happening as well. And I know they say February 2022 and everyone's just kind of been pushed back a couple of months, but I still think there is a possibility of more delays in the future for the Steam Deck. It's not easy to launch a device, whether it's a game console like the PS5 or Valve attempting something like the Steam Deck. So here's hoping it does just keep to this 2-month delay and everyone just gets kind of pushed back a bit in this queue. But I wouldn't be shocked if we're still talking about this midway through 2022 as people are seeing their queues get pushed, maybe even to holiday 2023. But here's hoping that's not the case and we start to see these Steam Decks coming out at the beginning of next year. Next up, let's talk about EA and them reportedly reviving Fight Night. Now, back in 2011, we had Fight Night Champion, and I did enjoy that game quite a bit. In fact, if you want to check it out, it's actually available backwards compatible on the Xbox Series systems right now. But even before that, we had like Fight Night Round 4, Fight Night Round 3, you go back to the PS2 days, it was awesome there. It's been a franchise that I've been following for a while, so it is a shame we haven't seen one for over a decade now, but we can see this over on VGC, saying sources, EA has greenlit a Fight Night revival, but it's on pause. The new game, codenamed Moneyball, yeah, that sounds about right, has entered early development and will resume after UFC 5. They go on to say that they did see a studio-wide email at EA where it explained that strong marketplace competition had made it challenging to staff up for Fight Night, which was intended to enter production alongside UFC, and that it did not want to split its senior creatives between two fighting game projects. Thus, the decision has been made to pause the game development for the time being to ensure that UFC 5 will be delivered at high quality, the email reads. So basically we look out for UFC 5, and when that starts approaching its release, we can start to hopefully look forward to maybe hearing something about this new Fight Night game entering the following year. The thing with these Fight Night games is the whole boxing scene is all over the place. It would cost a tremendous amount of money, I'm sure, to work all of the logistics out. Even then, you're probably still going to see several fighters and boxers who just aren't in this game. But Fight Night Champion was pretty cool. Working your way up from the bottom to becoming a champion. I mean, that's a pretty cool storyline you can put together in a video game. And the idea of including RPG elements where you get stronger as you train and everything, sure. And let's face it, this is an easy spot for EA to add in extra currency, microtransactions, maybe loot boxes, but I did enjoy Fight Night when it was around and relevant. It's just been so long that, yeah, I would be really excited to see them announce this. It's just, when will they do it? Could be a couple of years. Like I said, we'll look out for UFC 5, and then afterwards, maybe the following year, we can hopefully expect to hear some sort of announcement from EA. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about how one of the more popular third-party controllers for the Switch is getting a bit of an upgrade, I guess we could say that, or just a new accessory to add on with it. We can see this here. This was shown and announced by Hori over on their website. This appears to be a grip for their Hori Split Pad Pro. Now, these are Joy-Con third-party replacements that you can get. They don't have a battery or rumble or gyro, any of those features, but people really like them because it does make the overall handheld experience more comfortable and also larger, obviously, because you can see how much bigger it is, but it does add the extra area on the controller for better grip, and I have enjoyed at least using them when I have with my Switch. The thing they're announcing here is this grip, and it is wired. They say the cable itself is 3 meters, and it does also have the ability to plug in a headset that you would use, which makes sense. We've seen a lot of wired controllers use this, where you can plug in a headset because obviously it's already plugging into the USB Type A port on the Switch dock, so why not run a headset through it? But they will also include controls where you can mute or turn up and down your volume on the headset, and as well as your microphone. Now, they do mention plans to sell the grip separately, but the Amazon page that they linked in Japan appears to just be the whole set for about $65, and it looks like it's dated for basically the last day of this year, which tells me that their release date just isn't set in stone yet. So we'll keep an eye on this one. I might even get it and check it out in a tech wave just to see what we have and if it is something worth picking up. I think at this point, I would just like to see them make a wireless version of this with rumble and gyro and all of the extra features added in, so we can have that really comfortable but feature complete Switch Joy-Con third-party controller replacement that we are still kind of in search for. I mean, I know the advanced haptic feedback, or the HD rumble that Nintendo uses, really hasn't been replicated in any third-party controller, but just at least have some sort of rumble and then extra features like gyro would be nice, along with, obviously, a battery. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, did you get Forza Horizon 5? 32% said, yes, I downloaded on Game Pass, which, believe it or not, that's really what Microsoft wants you to do anyway. But 5% said, yes, I bought it retail or digital. And then 64% said, no, I haven't checked it out. And again, I recommend checking it out. If you have Game Pass, you might as well. If you don't yet, you might be looking towards other games to pick up, especially since we're heading towards some releases coming up next week. And obviously this week we have things like Shin Megami Tensei 5. But I think even if you're not necessarily into the simulation racing where you're going around a track, this is more on the arcadey side. I think it's a blast to play. And if you're someone who has a Series X or really even a powerful PC and you just want to see what it can do in a game that looks absolutely phenomenal, this is one I would pick up. You know what? I am leaning more and more towards the idea of a racing game like this being added into Game of the Year just based on what we're seeing from it. But I do have to play it more. I'm going to be playing it all week, actually. And then this Saturday night on the podcast, I will talk about my thoughts around this potentially being something in the Game of the Year conversation. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Mitchell saying, midnight releases are still very much a thing. I'm going to the release of Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl next Thursday. And I'll tell you, I witnessed firsthand the decline of the midnight release. It used to be a really big deal back on the Xbox 360. Those were like the glory days of the midnight release. Like you had like Call of Duty Modern Warfare come out. They had Halo 3 and it was just wild stuff. You had like pizzas coming into the GameStops there. And then as we went along, just less and less people showed up. And then I'd work at these different stores and at times, no one would show up. For releases you figured would be pretty big, and we found out, yeah, everything's just shifting to digital, and then eventually a lot of places just stopped doing it. In fact, in my area, the only thing I see midnight releases happen for anymore is if a system comes out. Even then, it's kind of up in the air. So I do miss the really big midnight releases. I think it was a lot of fun because you got a lot of people together with common interests around video games, but now it's just all digital and people just kind of wait for a little clock to tick down on their dashboard before they can launch the game. And ladies and gentlemen, let's get it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether it's Pokemon, Brilliant Diamond, and Shining Pearl. How do you feel about some of the content in that day one patch? Also, what about Fight Night? Were you a fan of that series back in the day? Are you excited to hear that we could be seeing another one coming up? And then what about the Steam Deck being delayed? When do you think you're gonna be getting yours? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.